Capricorn, welcome to your September 2019 love reading. It's Rena here. September is a great month for you because the sun is in Virgo, which is a sister earth sign. And there are other planets, inner planets, that are also in Virgo for a portion of the month. And this trine energy makes for easy manifestation. The flow of energy is very smooth, and things come easily to you, and your ruler, Saturn, is going direct on the 18th, so that's going to be great as well. And your fifth house is Taurus, and recently in the last, I think it was in March, maybe about 6 months ago, you had Uranus going into Taurus. And so that's the fifth house. Now, this is going to be a transit that is in play for, I think it's about 7 years. And one of the things that can happen is that you can meet somebody in a very unexpected way. So if you're single, make sure that you don't have like preconceived notions about anything related to love. That you're willing to, step out of your comfort zone. If you meet somebody who seems interested in you and you don't think that they're your quote-unquote type, that you're not just going to turn your nose up to a possible relationship, because you never know if that person is somebody who you can possibly have a deep connection with. But maybe on the surface, you're quite different. And the other thing too is they may be kind of like very unconventional, which would make kind of for an odd couple. Although not all Capricorns are going to be, I was going to say the word stuffed shirts, or use that expression, but I mean, more of a conservative type of person. Some Capricorns may have either the moon in Aquarius or Sagittarius or Aries, something like very independent, or they may have inner planets in either Sagittarius or Aquarius, and you may be very out of the box in a lot of ways, and it just so happens that you are attracted to those types of people. But this could be a literal Aquarian that comes into your life, or it can simply mean that you're just playing the field, that you're not really interested in settling down, especially since the eclipse cycle right now is in Cancer and Capricorn, which follows that first 7th house axis. And that means that there are a lot of activations to your, not only your first house of the self, but also the house of partnership. And that could mean changes in partnership. So let's say during this eclipse cycle that some Capricorns decide to end a long-term relationship, and they say to themselves, I don't want to jump back into another relationship. I just want to enjoy being single and enjoy dating, because that's what the fifth house can be. But I mean, you may literally date, not just, use that as a euphemism for something else, and just enjoy other people's company without having to make a commitment. And you may feel like this uncharacteristic sense of wanting to just enjoy, have that freedom when it comes to love. So I just wanted to share that because during September, there's really not anything that I can think of that relates to these houses in and of themselves, but that could still be in play. Okay. Gosh, I've been getting that Page of Swords for some reason. Oh boy. Okay. The heart of the matter is the Page of Swords, and this is a card of being on high alert. Sometimes this can mean that you're in a relationship, the early stages of a relationship with somebody who is of the swords, which is the air element. For you, I would say Libra is one of the top ones, being a cardinal sign. The other two signs that are air are Gemini and Aquarius. And by the way, we do have a new moon in this sign of Libra on the 28th of September. But that for you is more of like the career sector. So I'm not going to talk about that, but I just wanted to also make that point. But if you are involved in a relationship, you may feel this sense of like, I mean, when I say relationship, I'm talking about a longer term relationship. You may feel kind of like guarded for some reason, that there's something that is not quite adding up with the other person. Maybe they've changed their patterns, and you feel a sense of like something, they're doing something different. What's going on? Excuse me. And you know, that is considered one of the big red flags when somebody's having an affair, when they do things differently than they normally do. And is that true? Well, you know, I think that it certainly has to be looked at, because if somebody has a certain pattern and they break that pattern, yeah, there definitely something might be going on. They might not be having an affair. They may have an infatuation for somebody if they're starting to dress nicer for work and things like that, or they're coming home later, they're just kind of hanging out in the office with that person that they have a crush on. Maybe they haven't actually done anything about it, but it's an emotional affair. Who knows? But if you're single, it's possible that you are a bit guarded because of past issues that you've had. In the past position, we have the Queen of Wands. This is kind of like the woman who is a career woman. And unless this is your partner's boss and she's a female, and you're like, okay, is there something going on with my partner and his boss? Okay. Or her boss. I guess it could be her boss. So if there's, I'm just curious if anybody has this scenario, because that would be kind of interesting to know that in fact this is a thing for somebody. Because I don't know if it was when I first started doing the tarot or what, when I started doing it on here, I remember finding out that the kings and queens, that they could be like these authority figures. You know, they can be parents, or the mother of somebody's child, or the father of somebody's child, you know, mothers and fathers. But I found out it could also be somebody's boss. And so I started to incorporate that into some of my readings, and I was like surprised. I was kind of amused, I have to admit, because I think there was more than one person that said, oh yeah, I'm having an affair with my boss. It's like, oh, okay. The higher message is the Ace of Cups. And the Ace of Cups is like a new, like a beginning in love. Sometimes this, I think, can be the news of a pregnancy. So an example would be, now this is kind of crazy, but it could be true, that your partner, maybe you find out through the grapevine, and that's the Page of Swords. Maybe you're looking through Facebook and all this stuff, and you find out that your partner's ex is pregnant, and you start to go, whoa, is that with my man? Is that my man's baby? Or what? You know, one of those things. And then you're kind of like, being kind of like a spy, and you're kind of trying to ferret out information. Something along those lines. If you're single, this is what you're looking for. You're looking for love. You're not looking for an affair. And Capricorns, to me, are not typically the kind of like players or the people who take love lightly. I mean, as I said before, I think that most of you are pretty traditional. Even the ones that are kind of unconventional, that might be the one area that you really maintain a certain amount of tradition, where you believe in the family and you want that for yourself, you want that legacy, or just like believing that it's all about not just for yourself, like some kind of an ego thing, legacy, but just believing that we're here to kind of keep everything going, like, you know, keeping the dynasty going, if you will. And you may not do you might not want to do anything to jeopardize that, even if you're having kind of a flirtation. But you're looking for love, and maybe you feel like if you're in a relationship right now with somebody you don't trust, that you realize that that relationship doesn't have love. That is more of a kind of what would I call it? Like if it's a marriage of convenience or something along those lines. And yeah, maybe you got married because you got pregnant, and in some cases you may have even given up your career to have a child, and now you feel like this other person has checked out. And the Ace of Cups, maybe that's saying in some cases that they have, that they have a new love. But I usually interpret the higher message card in terms of whoever the subject matter is, not for other people, but just trying to cover all the bases. What crosses you is the Knight of Swords. I feel like two things could be happening. If you're single, maybe you have a tendency to attract emotionally unavailable people who even can be abusive in speech. If you are involved with somebody, then this person may be immature, like unwilling to settle down. They may be playing mind games of some sort. Usually, I was saying in another reading that I really associate kings and queens sometimes with narcissism because of the power that they try to maintain over somebody. And like they try to be in positions of power, like being parents or being bosses or something like that, having money so that they can control people through money. But I could even see like a Knight of Swords in reverse type of person as somebody who gaslights, who plays mind games on people and really gets them to think that there's something wrong with them. And really, these people, they want to have their cake and eat it too. They don't want to have to answer to anybody, but they want you to answer to them, all those things. So going back to the Ace of Cups, when you really want love in your life, you're not going to settle for less. A lot of people, I feel, are out of touch with their own emotions, so it's very hard for them to pick the right person and to resist people who don't, make the cut, who are not, I'm not going to say that they're not worthy of being in a relationship with you, because everybody is worthy as human beings, but they're not ready. Or they are, they're very emotionally stunted for some reason, and they play mind games in order to try to kind of like compensate for that. So they try to keep you on your toes because they're the ones that feel inadequate about themselves. What's coming in is represented by the Nine of Cups. This is the wish fulfillment card. So I do feel that if you hold out for somebody who is worthy of your love, because they are in a healthy place, they're not playing games, they're not running away, that you will get what you want. You will have your needs met, and you will have your wishes fulfilled. I believe this is true about everything in life. Sometimes it's scary, because I just had this conversation regarding, like, even when you're working for yourself, and you may find, you know, when you work for yourself, sometimes you're not having this, you know, steady stream of customers, and it can feel, you can start to question yourself, you can start to question your skills, your worth, your, you know, your ability to have a business. All these things come into play, and all the old tapes can start to play, where you fear that you'll never have another client, that you'll never get another commission, you know, a job, whatever it is that you do. And you really have to, at that moment, that's when you really have to step up your game, and where faith has to be 100%, because, you know, I think sometimes getting a steady paycheck can lull people into a bit of a coma, where they just kind of go through the motions. And I think there's a lot to be said for having you know, that kind of like steady paycheck. I mean, that there's some good things to it as well, because you can feel a lot more, you can make plans better sometimes and stuff like that. I'm just talking about sometimes a downside can be that you don't really stretch yourself. You just kind of go along with the program, and then you become very complacent. And the same thing can happen in relationships, or in between relationships, where, you know, and especially as we get older, right? Because people will say, well, you know, I don't think that, I'm not that young anymore. What if I can't attract a partner? I better stick with this person. But I guarantee you that that person says that all the time, has said that from the time they were in their 20s. In other words, people who have lack consciousness don't just have it when, you know, times get tough. They usually have always harbored feelings that they're never going to have what they want, so they have to, like, settle for less. And that's why it's kind of like a lie that people tell themselves. And we have to believe in unseen forces, like the star card says. I wish I would have gotten the star card, because it would have really gone along great with this reading. So the Nine of Cups may seem like it's coming out of nowhere, but it's not. I mean, the Ace of Cups is in the reading too. So it's like showing you your potential in life, but you have to make space for it. If you're in a toxic relationship, Capricorn, nobody's going to, you know, make that space for you. You have to have the ability to love yourself enough to know when you deserve better. The outcome is the Two of Pentacles. This can be time to make a choice, where if you are in a relationship, you may have to decide whether you're going to stay there. If you're single, perhaps you're not sure. With the Page of Swords, I wouldn't be surprised if some of you are still kind of like a little bit gun shy because of the past, or something that you went through, and you're not sure if you're ready to open up your heart. All I can say is that I feel that the Ace of Cups and the Nine of Cups are very positive cards. And, you know, I think that if you really have met somebody who you feel is a good person. Maybe that's one of the reasons why you're so nervous, because you really don't want to mess this up. But if you really feel like you've met somebody that you think is somebody that you can be with, that you would like to spend the rest of your life with, and I know it's a little bit crazy if you've just met them to even think about that, but if something kind of like makes you feel like this might be the one, but you're afraid that it's not going to work out, all I can say is that when in doubt, open your heart. As long as the person treats you right, open your heart, but don't be, desperate. Don't be gullible. Take things slowly. You don't have to, you don't have to like push things along. Just get to know them better. Okay, that's what I have for you, Capricorn. If you'd like a personal reading, the link is below. I hope you have a great September. Bye.